Is things getting sour between South Africa and the USA for its influence on the ICC arrest warrant against the Russian President Vladimir Putin? For how long will the USA continue to influence the ICC to put pressure on South Africa to arrest Vladimir Putin in his arriving in South Africa? What role is South Africa playing in order to bring peace between the two nations, USA and Russia? South Africa, it is not planning to withdraw from the International Criminal Court ICC, which was announced by the President of the Republic of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, and the Secretary General of the ANC, which later on end up bringing a lot of contradictions among the ANC members. Now the question to ask here is to know why the president have to come and cancel of something they had announced already. Is it that they are afraid of the pressure that they get to receive from the ICC and the NATO nations? In March 17, the ICC have launched an arrest warrant against the Russian President Vladimir Putin, which had put South African Republic to an obligation to arrest the Russian president in his arriving in South Africa. That is something that South Africa did not take lightly, because South Africa is a member of BRICS countries and is also a long partner to the Russian Federation since the time of apartheid. Therefore, South Africa end up feeling if like we're being used by Americans in order for them to solve their problems with Russia. Last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced to the media that South Africa is going to withdraw from the International Criminal Court when he said this.
Yes, the governing party, the African National Congress, has taken that decision that it is prudent that South Africa should pull out of the ICC, largely because of the manner in which the ICC has been seen to be dealing with these types of problems. And there's also been commentary, I believe, from Amnesty International, where there's been a reflection on what many people believe is an unfair treatment. And our view is that we would like this matter of unfair treatment to be properly discussed. But in the meantime, the governing party has decided once again that there should be a pull-out. So that will be a matter that will be taken forward.
This message of withdrawal of South Africa in the ICC was announced by someone else who's also part of the ANC, which is the governing party, by the way. And this all happened in the same day at different places at different hours without even them communicating. So the President of the Republic made that announcement, and here comes Fikile Mbalula, who have to dig in to give even more explanation that the president did not give when he said this.
There is a resolution to withdraw. We just have to implement that. You must understand that the domestication of the Roman statutes in South Africa means that it is the law of the Republic. The ICC law is the law of the Republic of South Africa. We have signed to that. So SWAPO is not part of the ICC. We are part. So the conference said this ICC does not serve the interest of all. It serves a few. America has not signed, all the big powers have not signed. And these are the people who are messing up the world. They cannot be arrested, but they influence others to be arrested. Putin is coming to South Africa. He must be arrested by us because we are ICC. But equally, the same ICC does say no head of state can be arrested in another country. So there is immunity in relation to that. But the domestication of these laws, Roman statutes in our country, have even undermined that immunity with President al-Bashir, because somebody went to court And then they said, here in South Africa, arrest al-Bashir. Unfortunately, when they took that decision, al-Bashir was gone.
So this message was a wrong button, or should I say, a panic button that the President Ramaphosa had pressed, because we end up seeing on how the open eye masters such as NATO and America end up putting a lot of pressure on the ICC to put more pressure on South Africa so that they can come back to the table and try to fulfill their promises or on what they have signed the time when they joined the ICC. Therefore, they have to use all the measures as possible as they can in order for them to pass their message. And they end up using some of the opposition political parties in South Africa in order for them to stand against what the President of Republic, President Ramaphosa, had said about the Russian President Vladimir Putin. On the Freedom Day, which was celebrated last week, we get to see the Western Cape Premier Allen, who had to come and tell the media that if President Putin arrives in Western Cape, will be arrested. Well, that left many questions among South Africans, where we get to ask ourselves this question to know if we are now having another country within South Africa, or is it just a province who gets to challenge the governing body that have announced the withdrawal of the South Africa in the ICC. This have raised a lot of questions, but have first listened to what the Premier of Western Cape had said back then.
For atrocities in this illegal war, and it really bothered me that there's no clarity, and so I'm very happy to make that quite clear in this province, that if Vladimir Putin comes later in the year into this province, I will do whatever necessary. We will follow that through, and we will make sure that he is arrested and he faces his day in court with the ICC.
Mm-hmm. What if then that's a different stance to the government, given the back and forth in relation to their response to this issue? If they say, for example, they will not arrest him when he gets to South Africa, and then you say that when he gets to the Western Cape it's going to be a different ball game, how do you then deal with that, given the fact that the Western Cape is ultimately part of South Africa?
Yes, I agree. But South Africa has the agreement signed. We are party to the Rome Accord. We have a duty as a signatory, and we can't ignore that duty. So I'm saying in this province, we won't ignore that duty. We will follow it through. If there's a dispute between national government and the province, well, I'm happy to face that dispute. But quite frankly, I will do the right thing, especially now. We need to make sure that, I'm worried about what's happening in the world, and I'm worried about what happens in our country around clarity, around crime and corruption. And if I look at the numbers and the human atrocities and abuses that are happening in the Ukraine, I can only but make a stand.
Well, I believe after listening to the Western Cape Premier, you still have also the same question in your mind to know who is this man and why he have to come and challenge the President of the Republic in his words. He have his own reasons that he gets to give in advance. But is that enough to get to challenge the head of the state from what he had said before you? Well, in order to get the answer to these questions, we have to look from the side of one of the opposition leader who get also to challenge him when he get to respond or give his point of view about the same questions, the same topic that has been trending around the world. And this time we're talking about the president of EFF, Julius Malema, when he get to give his point of view when they were doing the cleaning up campaign in Soweto. They had to ask him the same questions about what this Western Cape Premier had said. Julius Malema said this.
President Putin is more than welcome here, and no one is going to arrest President Putin. Everyone who says that is blowing a hot air. I don't think the Premier of Western Cape knows what he's talking about. If he wants to meet his maker prematurely, he must try and touch Putin. No one can do that. Not even Biden can say such a regular statement when it comes to Putin. Putin is more than welcome here. You know, what he said, that Premier of Western Cape, reminds me of the 2019 elections, when we were in a voting station after forming the EFF 2014, not 2019, 2014 elections. My brother is a party agent there. And then he sees my grandmother's friends coming in to vote, and they don't vote for the EFF. When he went home, he said to my grandmother, your friends must no longer come here. That day he knew who was the owner, because my grandmother said that is not going to happen. And those people who did not vote for EFF continued coming into our family. So that boy of the Western Cape is a spoiled brat. He just behaves like some young a fellow who feels entitled, and there is nothing he can do. I mean, if Putin goes to the doorstep of his house, he is going to jump like a fanatic. He will never, the mentality of arresting Putin will not be there, because Putin, as we speak now, is a world hero. Anyone who stands up to the bully America is a friend of ours.
That is the president of EFF, Julius Malema, who have to come and respond back to one of the opposition political party in South Africa. Does it make sense? Well, I'll leave that as a question to you, because for me, it does not make sense at all. They are both from the opposition political party. And we all know the job of opposition political parties is to disagree or to correct the mistake that the governing party they might be doing. And here, surprisingly, I'm seeing an opposition political party which is divided on one point of view that they've been asking from both of them. One saying that is going to arrest Vladimir Putin. One is more determined that Vladimir Putin is welcome. So it is more clear that now we get to understand who's saving the open eye mask and who's saving people of South Africa. Because surprisingly, the same people are trying to defend Ukraine and wanting to arrest Vladimir Putin in his arriving in South Africa. These are the same people who've been quiet about everything that is happening in Africa. This same political party, we never get to hear their point of view on what is happening in the DRC, or whether it is in Sudan where there is war there, or whether it is any part of Africa where there is conflict. We have not get to hear their point of view. We never get to see their point of view when it comes to all these problems. Do you know why? Because sometimes they forgot that they live in Africa, and sometimes they get to tell us that, no, look, we might be here in Africa, but our mind, our support is somewhere else. Because during this time is when we get to see all Africans get to be united and get to pass one message around the world. Unfortunately, with these people, it's different. So what you note here is that we are having two opposition political parties in South Africa, which one agree with the ruling party, which is the ANC, and another one disagree to agree with the ANC. Instead, they prefer to agree with NATO and the USA. But guys, how did we even get here? Because when you get to see from the way things are standing, you get to see that South Africa is being used as the right place where the NATO and the ICC prefer to put their hands on Vladimir Putin, since they have tried all their measures and yet they could not be able to arrest him, or yet they could not be able to assassinate him. As you get to see, last weekend the president of Russia, they failed to assassinate him by the Ukraine government. So how do you think, how did we even get here so that South Africa will be the right place for these people to think that they can arrest Vladimir Putin? Because South Africa have signed for the ICC back in days. And before they get to sign for this ICC, we had someone who was against it from the beginning. He had given his point of view about this ICC. As a Pan-African, he opened up and tell his reasons. But back then, no one believed him. Today, I believe we can all say that the men have tried to save the nation. Here, I'm talking about the former president of the Republic of South Africa, President Jacob Zuma, who had given an interview back then about this so-called ICC. And this is what he had to give as a response when they asked him about Omar Bashir, who was supposed to be arrested in South Africa back then, but unfortunately that was not the case. Have a listen.
Last issue, the International Criminal Court. You attended a meeting of the African Union in Addis Abeba. There were calls to withdraw from the ICC, as it's known, because of the situation in Kenya, where both the president and the vice presidents have been indicted and are to face trial. The decision was to ask the United Nations Security Council to defer prosecutions of sitting president, which applies to the case of Kenya, but also for Omar al-Bashir, the Sudanese president who has been indicted for crimes against humanity, war crimes, and genocide. And some people are criticizing this as saying African leaders are trying to escape international justice.
Well, that's not true. If you said the case must continue, you are actually saying you don't care about Kenya, even if you are charging these people because you care about their security. But whether Kenya is run by whoever, once that date comes, because the deputy is already there must be nobody running the Kenya. We say this cannot happen. We say, therefore, once that situation comes, we believe it will be very difficult for the president to go there and leave Kenya on his own.
What if the response is negative from the Security Council?
Of course, we have said, but that's part of the reason. We have said maybe we should look at the principle whether the serving president should actually be charged if we are to come across such a situation. And I think the view was, then Kenyatta probably should not go to court because it will mean nobody cares about the views that come from Africa. This is not saying the case must go away. And we are saying it is absolutely important that Kenya as a country, particularly because both these leaders have worked very hard to unite the people who are fighting to a point where they voted for both of them together. They have actually brought about peace and stability, unprecedented. These are matters we believe need to be taken into consideration.
So if the UN Security Council doesn't respond favorably, you will say to President Kenyatta, don't go to the ICC.
No, that point has been made already in the extraordinary.
We have to finish here.
From this moment, if Africa continent and South Africa, if we were clever enough, we're supposed to consider these words and start applying on how to leave the ICC, because these organizations, you get to see that it is an organization that get to target a certain categories of people, a certain group of individuals, and not everyone. Do you understand? So if the ANC, they were clever enough as a ruling party, that was the moment they're supposed to leave these things, as Kenya did with the Uhuru Kenyatta. Remember, the President Uhuru Kenyatta was also accused in the same ICC, and he's supposed to be the third head of the state, African head of the state, to appear inside this international criminal court. But what happened? He refused, and his country, they had voted to leave that ICC out. So the ANC, they should have think of all this before we get to reach to this level, because right now the ANC get to withdraw of what the president had said last week in the media, because they had acknowledged that we have signed about this. And this week we get to see how the government, they're trying to put some a team of people to go and negotiate with NATO, to go and try to negotiate with the ICC and try to make them understand, because the government of President Cyril Ramaphosa wants the Russian President Vladimir Putin to show up in South Africa so that he can be able to attend also this summit that is up to come very soon. Now, will this negotiation have to go well? Because looking at it, I think it's also one of the mistakes they're making. When you have to send these people to go and negotiate with the enemy number one of Russia, people who are so desperate to see Vladimir Putin with the Russian people going down because of their own interest. I don't think that they'll ever gonna come up with a good solution. We're talking about the same people who believe that they are the only good intermediary to bring peace in this Ukraine and Russia war. Because when China managed to convince Ukraine, when China managed to bring Ukraine to the table for the negotiation with Russia, we get to see how United States, they came out to show how angry they are and threatening the president of Ukraine that you're not going to go to sit to the table with Russia when China, they are being there as the intermediary. Because they believe that China is a partner to Russia. So if China is the one trying to do these negotiations, them as NATO, they are going to lose, because their mission here is to make sure that Russia fail in everything so that they will take control of Ukraine in order for them to impose their leadership over there. Now, let's wait and see what will happen. Perhaps things will go better in their favor, but on my point of view, I don't think that anything good is going to come from this negotiation that South Africa is trying to do with USA. By the way, the ANC, they had all the time to withdraw from the ICC. Unfortunately, that did not happen, because perhaps they never thought that something like this would happen one day. So therefore, they now stuck. It is either they have to obey and try to arrest Vladimir Putin, or make him cancel to not appear for this summit, and which is not going to be good, because this summit, it needs the head of the states who are part of BRICS to be part of its presence. They don't need to send someone to represent them there. So, and on the other side, Vladimir Putin is ready to come. Now, with all this being said, guys, what will happen next? Because the same government of the ANC, when I'm talking about the same government, I'm talking about President Ramaphosa, who had to come and tell the media that South Africa is withdrawing from ICC before even Putin come. They came back and denounced this message, saying that no, the South Africa is still in the ICC. In other words, South Africa is obliged to arrest Vladimir Putin in his arrival here. Now, is that something that's going to happen? Because we still have another group of people, whether it is in the ANC, whether it is in the opposition political parties, who are still standing together with Russia, and they welcoming the president of Russia to come back. Now that the ANC and as the ruling party, they come and they say that no, we're still in the ICC. What is the opposition party have to say about this? Listen to what Julius Malema have said about it.
Well, ICC, we must get out of it. The ANC is confused. I've never seen such a confused organization that is controlled by white capital. The SG speaks from Little House, says we're moving out of ICC. The president speaks from Union Building, we're moving out of ICC. Same day. Later in the evening, they come back, they say there was a mistake committed, we're not leaving the ICC. How can the president and the SG commit the same mistake when they are in two separate places at the same time? The white capital that controls the ANC went to reprimand them immediately after they had spoken. What an international embarrassment, because this was said in front of a visiting head of state. So if you don't know what these people are doing, just look at what they did the last time about the ICC. We need to get out of the ICC, because there is international inconsistency when it comes to application of the rule of law by the ICC. We cannot have people who committed genocides being free, and America not even be a signatory at the ICC, yet we must be a signatory. It's very clear that the ICC is created to anyone who disagrees with the America. So we cannot allow that. We cannot allow America to police us by the rules that itself cannot follow. Why is George Bush not in prison? Why is Obama not in prison? It is Obama who led the killing of Brother Gaddafi here in Africa. So we cannot allow that. We cannot allow a situation where this thing is selective.
That is Julius Malema grilling the ANC for withdrawal from the ICC, which he had feel like it is just a game that the ruling party have done so far. But we shall wait and see, because we get to see a lot of effort that the government they are doing right now in order for them to guarantee the security of the president of Russia in his arriving in South Africa. What will happen next now? Because with all this being said, we have to note something for sure, is that South Africa is not going to arrest Vladimir Putin, whether they like it or not, but that is the fact. There is many reasons that will make South Africa to not arrest Vladimir Putin, regardless of how many pressures they'll receive from USA, from NATO countries, from the ICC. South Africa.
Our priority, first and foremost, is to support British nationals, British passport holders and their dependents. That is our priority. That's why we've commenced an evacuation mission. We've deployed over 1,000 RAF personnel and armed forces personnel. We've sent Home Office and Border Force officials actually out to Sudan to support the processing so that people can be relocated to the United Kingdom. Our first and overwhelming priority is to support British nationals out there in Sudan right now.
Sure, but I think people will remember this time last year when you were trying to get British people and rescue them from Ukraine. But you were also coming up with safe routes from Ukraine that Ukrainian people could get to the UK. We remember the various programmes that were announced. Would it be sensible, fair to do the same kind of thing for people from Sudan?
Well, the situation is very different to Ukraine, so I wouldn't want to draw those comparisons. We're at a very early stage of the situation emerging in Sudan. It's a very fast-moving and rapidly changing picture. There are a lot of unknowns right now about what the longer-term implications are of this conflict that we're seeing there. We are always the Foreign Office, the Ministry of Defence, the Home Office, all led by the Prime Minister, have put together a wide-ranging and extensive package of support focused at helping British nationals. That's our duty. That's our priority.
Now tell me for yourself, how can you trust this kind of people? How can you rely on this kind of people thinking that they'll bring something good? No, because you get to see that they only care about themselves. They only care about what it benefits them. Therefore, Africa, with Africans, we should try to understand that we are on our own. And if I have to give a message to the government of the ANC, I believe this is the time right now, more than ever. If you guys, you end up giving up on this pressure that USA is putting on the ICC in order for them to try to threaten us and telling South Africa that we should arrest Putin, then I think we'll end up losing everything. Even that small dignity or that power, that respect that these other nations have for South Africa, will end up losing everything. So we need to stand on our feet as Africa and try to challenge this ICC with NATO and its alliance. Because if we don't do that, next time they'll do the same thing again. Maybe they might even do something else bigger than this. Because these are the same people who keep on putting trouble around the world, getting involved in people's business, even if they don't invite them. See what is happening in Taiwan, whereby there's a problem, small problem between Taiwanese and Chinese. But they end up getting there and start supplying Taiwan's with the military bars and everything, while the one in Europe with Ukraine, they could not be able to bring peace. So, as Africans, I think we need to distance ourselves from this kind of people. We need to distance ourselves from this kind of activities, because at the end of the day, it's not benefiting us. Instead, it is us Africans who've been victims for so many years. I hope this message was loud and clear, and I believe you have learned something in this video. Thank you so much for watching this video until now. I really do appreciate your presence from the beginning up to now. If this is your first time to be in this channel, please don't leave without hitting that subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel for more video to come, because on this channel we educate, in this channel we do analysis, in this channel we talk or discuss about trending matter that Africa and the world is facing. Therefore, we encourage you to really subscribe to this channel. Above all, give us your thumbs up, hit that like button as well. We'll really do appreciate. To those always watch us time to time, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for everything you do for us, whether it is through the comment, whether it is a financial. We really do appreciate that. It was indeed a pleasure to be here and have this discussion with you guys. Thank you so much. I'll be looking forward to see you in our next video. But for now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon. Ciao, ciao.